Hey there, and welcome to this week's Hacking Your Hormones for Weight Loss Q&A. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Phyllis Thompson, your favorite hormone hacking coach for weight loss. And every single one of my lives, you'll walk away with at least one tip that you can implement right away to start shrinking that waist, feeling better, getting rid of those pesky symptoms that make us feel not quite like ourselves, like brain fog and moodiness, and start aging for longevity. Without further ado, let's get into our questions for this week. Let me close some of these tabs so nothing slows us down, because sometimes it'll freeze on me when I have too many tabs open. Now, let's get to the question. It is from Tasha, who says, I think I might be sabotaging myself. I'll be doing good all day, and then I eat. And then when Friday comes, I throw everything out the window. Well, Tasha, self-sabotage is a major roadblock. It's like having one foot on the gas and the other foot on the brake, right? And it's actually very common. So let's first look at a few ways that self-sabotage can show up, right? It can show up as like starting and stopping a diet, right? You keep starting, you keep stopping, and then there's the emotional eating and just having a stressful day, eating after a stressful day, things like that. And not eating enough, right? So one of the things I think you may want to look at is if you're actually eating enough food on those days that you get home and you start eating too much, right? Often we think as women that if we eat less, that's going to mean faster weight loss. Well, what that can do for a lot of us is backfire. What will happen is once you get home and then you're in the quiet of your own home and you've got things in your pantry or refrigerator that aren't really aligned with your goals, you are more likely than not to give into them if you haven't eaten enough food. Your body is your resolve for resisting temptation is much lower if you're hungry and you're not eating enough food. Okay. So that's one thing you could look at. Another thing is know your triggers, right? For me, when the weekend came, what was this, 2014, when I started losing weight after having kids and being a mom for all those years. I gained weight, which a lot of us do. So when I first got started, my husband used to like to drink and eat out and all these things come Friday night. And we do that all weekend long after I've worked so hard all week long to stay on plan and to drink my water and to eat clean and to get my workouts in. And I'm losing weight and I'm feeling good. I've got energy. My skin is glowing. And then Friday would come and he's like, all right, let's get some wine for you, beer for me. We'll grab a movie for the kids. We'll get candy and popcorn. We make it movie night in the living room. And then that would start the debauchery. And we eat out on Saturday night and we probably order takeout on Sunday. And by Monday morning, I'd be right back where I started the Monday before that. And it took a lot of years actually for me to get sick of the cycle and to actually make the change, right? So knowing your triggers, my trigger was it was Friday and my husband liked to eat out. So I had to set boundaries, right? You're going to have to set boundaries with your loved ones. So I would set boundaries and I told him, if you're going to eat out this weekend, do exactly that. Eat out, don't bring it home, right? And then even when he started doing that, I still, Friday and the weekend was a trigger for me. So I had to decide I wasn't going to give in. And it took some practice. But after the first few times of me resisting, and it was uncomfortable those first couple of weekends, then I got used to it because, first of all, come Monday morning, I hadn't gained the weight back. I was actually down another half a pound or more, right? So that's motivation in itself. And then I'd be going all week long. And you do want to have a little treat here or there, right? Like every 7 or 14 days. And that's a meal, not an entire day, because an entire day can truly ruin an entire week's worth of progress. So after a few weekends of doing that and really experiencing that I was strong enough to not only resist, but not feel deprived because I was having little days of treat days, not days, sorry, let me take that back. Treat meals, not days, that satisfied me and I felt good and it built my self efficacy. That's the belief in yourself that you can do this. After a couple of weekends, I want to say 2 or 3 weekends of that, it stuck. because I was feeling good, right? And we would have date night maybe every 2 weeks or something like that. So I could go out and enjoy a meal out and not feel like I was deprived, right? So knowing your triggers, and honestly, in that, I don't know if you got that, was making the decision. You are going to have to make the decision and stick to it and sit in the discomfort for a little bit, right? Um, I don't want to get preachy or religious, but it reminds me of something that my spiritual mentor and I were talking about the other day. Is when you are first becoming a Christian and getting your life right with God, one of the things they tell you to do is to sacrifice the flesh, right? The wording is a little different in the Bible, but it's to the effect of you have to deny your flesh long enough of the things you know aren't beneficial to you until you get used to it and that temptation goes away. It's the same freaking thing with weight loss, okay? And with getting your body and your hormones in alignment so that you feel freaking amazing and you start shrinking your waist. It's the same thing, okay? And you really, truly just have to make the decision that you're going to resist it and it's going to be tough and you may slip up the first couple of times, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And that's exactly why the majority of my clients start with meal plans, so they don't have to figure it out and it has that treat meal in there, right? So back to your question. So we talked about knowing your triggers, right? Paying attention to the patterns, not starving yourself, making sure you're eating enough in the day that you're not waiting until you get home and you're binging because you're freaking starving, right? Our resolve is a lot lower when we're starving, okay? And then buying things that don't align with your goals is a huge way, one of the easiest ways to sabotage yourself, right? It's not so easy for everybody because some people have small kids, they feed other people, but I'm 4'11" and a half. So I had small kids when I first started my journey, and my husband was 6'2". So I would tell him, if you're buying treats for the kids, put them up where I can't see them, out of sight, out of mind. Because at the time, I wasn't able to make the decision, right? I wasn't ready to. At some point, I did make the decision that we weren't going to buy some of that shit. So if you're not able to change what's coming into your home just yet, have it be put where you can't see it, out of sight, out of mind, right? But if you are in a place where you can control what's coming into your home, right? Don't buy it, right? Or buy smaller packages of something so that the chances of you binging on like a bag of cashews, right? That's one of the things I don't even buy anymore. Yes, they're good for you in moderation. However, raw cashews have a little sweetness to them. So I typically, not typically, I have been known to eat the entire bag. And that ain't good for nobody. So I don't buy it anymore, right? The same thing with there's just certain things that I won't buy because you know yourself. Don't for a second try to fool yourself and think, oh, well, I'm not going to eat it all. I'm just going to eat the right portions. Come on, sis. You already know that's not going to happen because you've proven to yourself what you're going to do, right? And even myself, with all my years of training and experience and taking the stage and all those things, I'm still a human being. If I get hungry enough and I have something in there that I'm not supposed to eat, let's say oatmeal cream pies. I love oatmeal cream pies, but I don't buy them because they're toxic and I will eat the whole box. If I have oatmeal cream pies in my pantry, what do you think is going to happen if I'm hungry enough or having a bad day enough that I'm like, F it, I'm going to eat it because it's going to make me feel better? You're going to eat it. So paying attention to what you bring into your home, if it has to be there, putting it in a place where you can't see it, but ultimately don't bring it in, right? That is one of the easiest ways to sabotage yourself. And if you're eating because it's stress, right? If you don't know if you're high stress, one of the ways to know that is if you struggle with anxiety and if you're not sleeping really good. Those are two signs that tells me there might be a stress response going on. But if you haven't taken my hormone quiz, you can take that, and that'll give me a really good idea of if you are having a stress response in your body, which creates the stress belly. But stress eating is a thing, right? If you've had a stressful day at work and there's a likelihood that you might go home and eat something to soothe yourself, you have to change the behavior. So knowing your triggers, right? Sit down and think, has today been stressful? Is that why I'm eating this? Like, if you're hungry or not. If you're eating something and you're like, I don't even know why I'm eating this, I'm not hungry. That is telling you that, one, it's possibly that it's a stress response, or you're eating out of emotion, right? That is a trigger. There's something for you to dig into there, right? And to change the behavior, first you have to know what the trigger is to change the behavior. And second, we want to change the behavior. Mercedes, my client who lost over 32 pounds, who is living it up in Jamaica right now, she was like, this is where I wanted to be at this age of my life, right? At this stage of my life, at this age, this is where I wanted to be. And she's celebrating her birthday in Jamaica. She struggled with self-sabotage, right? And we worked through that. We found different things to help give her the same craving satisfaction without completely obliterating all of her hard work. There were certain things that her body just couldn't handle because she has Graves' disease, right? That is an autoimmune condition. There's certain things that her body couldn't handle. It would bloat her, right? It would immediately, she gained like 3 or 4 pounds. And we know that's inflammation, but something like that can completely throw you off, because now in your head you gain weight when it's not actually weight, it's just water and bloat and inflammation. But we found some things that gave her the same satisfaction, and it would zap her energy. She'd feel like crap, right? Her energy be in a tank, because those are one of the symptoms of her condition when she eats foods that flare up her disease, right? That will work against her. So we found things to replace it with that satisfied the same cravings, but didn't totally obliterate all of her hard work. So knowing your triggers, finding safer replacements. And sometimes it's a matter of trial and error. Like my client Tayo, who lives in the UK, she also has an autoimmune condition, Hashimoto's, and she is Nigerian. So there's certain foods that she loves that she had to give up. You have to be willing to make some sacrifices to feel better, right? So we got her feeling better, and now she's in a place where she's experimenting with spices and things that fall in line with the way she wants to live, because through our work together, she's identified foods that her body just cannot handle, or it'll zap her energy and do other things, right? Especially with, well, I don't want to tell too much about her before I talk to her, so I'm not going to go deep into that. But anyway, so she has found spices that will give her some of the same flavors that she's used to culturally, so she doesn't feel deprived. So it really is truly about you making the decision and being willing to find replacements, change the behaviors, knowing your triggers, right? And often it's hard for us to see all of that, right? Because we're too close to it. And that's where working with a coach or even a functional medicine practitioner will work and come into play, because they'll be able to point out things that you can't see. So I hope that helped. If you haven't taken the hormone quiz and you want to identify what is going on in your body and get a really good idea of what's happening, what may be out of whack, and what your next step should be, just drop me a line below or shoot me a message in Messenger and you can take the hormone quiz. But there's also the self-sabotage training that my client took, which was a game changer for her. It's actually something that I only offer to clients. But if you think you might be suffering from self-sabotage, I'm offering this training for free. So if you're interested in taking the training, let me know. It's going to point out some because these aren't the only self-sabotage behaviors. There's a list more, and there's going to be certain triggers and ways to overcome them and things to help you shift that behavior so you stop working against yourself. So if you're interested in taking the self-sabotage training, let me know. Drop me a line below, shoot me a message in Messenger, send up a smoke signal, whatever you need to do, and I'll make sure to get that over to you. I hope that answered your question, Tasha. And for anyone else that thinks they might be struggling with self-sabotage, I hope that answered your question as well. If you need anything else, or if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Until next time, ciao.